Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon, well, actually, technically morning, depending on where you're at, live stream for Week 5 of the 2025 fantasy football season, where we're going to be talking about all things fantasy football related for the next hour plus. I know that this week has held a very heavy toll on many of us, considering the volume of injuries and, of course, the vital members of our team that are already on bye here in Week 5. Many of us are scrambling in order to set our lineups, whether it's even that or just the raw inconsistency of players or just difficult matchups. You know, when you have a stud player and they're taking on Denver and they're a receiver, you know, it may not be the most exciting matchup. But nonetheless, we're answering any and all fantasy football related questions as we typically do. You guys know the rules. Whenever you send in a question, whether that is in the live chat and or super chat to claim priority, make sure you include your scoring format, all that kind of jazz. That's greatly appreciated. And that's basically it. I think that'll pretty much entail how we go about this today, shall we? Okay, so let's begin by answering some questions. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put up the YouTube chat really quickly. Also, a reminder, do not forget, because many of us kind of got fooled by it but last Sunday morning. Many of you guys may have forgotten that there was a Dublin-Ireland game. Tomorrow, it's the same schedule. There's going to be a very early overseas game starting at 6:30 a.m. PST, 9:30 a.m. EST. So I will be live streaming here starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, 4-hour live stream in order to encompass all of the questions that we'll be answering over the course of that period of time. So be sure to swing on by tomorrow for any sort of confirmations, the rankings that are on screen, all that kind of jazz as we typically do, shall we? Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to throw up this YouTube chat and we'll begin with Juice Vino, who sends in his first question of the day. He says, good day, Drew. In a full PPR, do I play Kamara, Rico, or Woody? I need a W. Look, between the three of them, here's my thought process as it currently stands. I think regardless of scoring format, the way that I'm kind of navigating the three of these is purely based on a matchup purpose. I would prefer to play Alvin Kamara because he plays against the New York Giants. That New York Giants run-stop defense has been non-existent all season long. Even last week, we saw, Omarion Hampton have 12 carries for 120-plus yards. Everybody has dominated against them on the ground. So my assumption is that that'll just continue. Yet, again, there is the competition and there is the touches that Kendre Miller will be exposed to. Rico Dowdle will have the same thing with Trevor Etienne. Woody will have the same thing with Nick Chubb. They're all in like kind of two-headed monster situations of sorts. But Kamara, the upcoming matchup, I think it's a little bit too difficult to pass up on. In comparison, I'd rank them as Kamara 1, Rico 2, Woody 3. That's the way I go about it. I'm sure by tomorrow, Kamara and Rico are going to be relatively close to my rankings, but I'll still lean towards Kamara in this regard. Thank you, Juice. Kay sends in a question, says Justin Jefferson or Pickens? I'd have a hard time in any scenario not starting Justin Jefferson. I mean, it's just, especially coming off of last week, that performance in a PPR scoring format. I understand Pickens scoring touchdowns is such a huge uptick of value. So if you wanted to play Pickens there, by all means you can. Again, they're both ranked. Let me go with my rankings here from Thursday's Patreon. In a full PPR, I had Jefferson as my number 4 and Pickens as my number 6. So ultimately, they're so close that you've just got two undeniably great options. Whoever you want to play, you can go for. I prefer Justin Jefferson this week, considering the PPR format additionally. As for your follow-up, Fields or JD5, with all the injuries that have surrounded JD5, additionally, the questions as to whether or not he is at a full healthy capacity with his knee, because his mobility is such a huge, strong fantasy kind of construct to his upside, it's very difficult to trust it blindly without knowing what he's going to look like. So I'd probably just play Fields there over him. And then as for the two tight ends, I would just play with Zach Ertz in this circumstance because, yes, Deebo Samuel is going to be active, but there's still no Terry McLaurin, and the running game is going to be very much so inconsistent. So Zach Ertz now will get his kind of uptick of value returning with JD. I mentioned it on Thursday's tight end and quarterback rankings video. In the last 12 games that Zach Ertz has played with a healthy Jaden Daniels, Zach Ertz has scored, if I'm not mistaken, 9 touchdowns in the last 12 games. Pretty ridiculous, to say the very least. Okay, continuing on. Let's move on to Jerome Hill, who says, Buenos dias. What's up, my man? Appreciate all that you do. Questions in the chat. All right, let's see what you have here in the live chat. Says Etienne and a second half of most likely shootouts because Jacksonville's behind, or Rashad White and Seattle's defense. Yeah, look, okay, so here's my thought process. I think it depends, right? Because in the second half, if they get into a kind of pass-heavy script, LaQuint Allen is like their primary pass blocking third down back. And he does a lot of 2-minute drill as well within this backfield. Many people don't hear his name because they don't give him very many rushing attempts. And obviously, Bayshaw Tootin has been all the noise this offseason and thus far this season with, of course, Tank Bigsby being recently traded. But let me see where I currently have them structured, and then I can give you my suggestion here. Because the way that I see it, I mean, the receiving value that Rachaad White most likely is going to be exposed to, in my mind, is actually just significantly higher. Let's see here. Where are we at? So theoretically speaking, if I have ETN there. Okay, so here's my thought process. Just purely off of the value that ETN has presented to us thus far, he probably deserves to just start blindly. There shouldn't even be a question. But in my mind, I think if we're talking about, if it's any point of like a full PPR format, I would probably just roll with Rachaad White because he could probably catch the ball 5-6 times this week. So that's what I'm thinking most likely. But if it's a half, or if you're just like, I'm just going to roll with ETN because he's the hot hand, I don't have an issue with it. But if it's a full PPR, I'm genuinely considering Rachaad White as the better play. Thank you. All right, let's hear Eric sends in a question. Thank you very much, Eric. Says, I'm chasing points this week. Who has the higher ceiling, Jordan Mason or RJ Harvey? I'd be hard-pressed to think that it's RJ Harvey. I don't think RJ Harvey has the higher ceiling between the two of them, because ultimately the script has to be in favor of the way that RJ Harvey is utilized in order for that to kind of go in his direction. We got to remember the primary reason that he got as many looks in his most recent week is because, of course, the lead that they were able to build against that defense. So if we're going to trend in the direction of them playing against the relatively tough Eagles defense, sure, it could lead to potentially more receiving workload for him, but how much he gets exposed to within that category and how much rushing attempts he's also exposed to is still going to be in question. So for right now, I just lean towards playing Jordan Mason there as of this moment. Hopes that he potentially gets himself a couple big runs here, potentially all the goal line work, and of course falls in. Thank you. Frosty says, I've got a dilemma this week, boss. Sorry. Story. What does it say? Is this story in the chat? Geez, you got a story, huh? Okay, let's see here. It says, bye week and injuries have me in a bind. Only available receiver is Sutton. So I picked up Tolbert and Downs, hoping their surrounding injuries matter. Yeah, they should. I mean, Kevontae Turpin being out certainly is going to elevate Tolbert. And then additionally, Alec Pierce being out. I mean, Josh Downs, a lot of his workload is being sapped by the value of Tyler Warren, because they're both primarily kind of that slot receiving option. But anyway, says I'm forced to flex. Okay, Charbonnet, no problem. Says, do I pinch my nose and see it through, or look for other options? Notable names are Hollywood Brown, Malik Washington, Sean Tucker, Justice Hill, Kendre Miller in a full PPR format. Look, as of right now, I think the options you currently have accessible to you, Tolbert and Downs, are quite viable in this circumstance of a full PPR. If I was looking for one of those alternatives to potentially outpace those two in scoring, I mean, I could. No, look, personally, I wouldn't tell you to play any of the other notable names that you have here. Hollywood, Malik, any of these guys. I think Hollywood would be the next man up after Tolbert and Downs. But I think these two are the preferred. As to playing like a Hollywood Brown over Charbonnet in a full PPR, I could justify that purely just off of the scoring format. So if you have the available roster spot, we can make that swap. Because again, Charbonnet is very much so touchdown dependent, and he'd just have to immediately fall in to be able to break 10 points. So I don't mind the idea of going for a Hollywood Brown there and playing him over Sharbs if Tolbert or Downs are not already doing that for you this week. If they are doing that for you, and you could play Tolbert or Downs over him, then that works for me, and I'd be happy with that. Thank you. All right, let's hear. Eric Nixon sends a question. Eric, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Eric says the following. Says, in a PPR, Henry, Dowdle, A.J. Brown, Meyer, Shakir, Laporta, flex is Carter, Lions, bench, and okay, so flex, okay. Let's see. So as in Michael Carter. Okay, cool. Lions, bench is Kincaid, Slayton. Flex change question. Is there a better option? Slayton versus AJ Bree given the matchup. Yeah, look, I wouldn't personally ever play Slayton over AJB, even with the upcoming matchup as it stands. I'd be a very difficult decision to make right there, first and foremost. I'd be in a tough position to where Typically, I want to start my studs in the form of AJ Bree. Obviously, he has not played like a stud, but he also really hasn't been given the most quality of opportunities as of late. In regards to potentially swapping anybody out, I probably keep it as is. If it's my team, this is the way that I go about it. I'll leave this lineup as is, no questions about it. We'll keep it as such. I think that is probably the best way in which you set up your team in a half PPR or a full PPR. I know you'd play in a full, but for those of you who are wondering as to whether I'd play like Slayton, Kincaid, or Michael Carter in the flex, I'll just take Carter there regardless of scoring format. So yeah, I would just leave AJB. I'd leave Carter. That's the way that I'd roll about it. Eric, thank you. Kudos sends in a question. Says in a half PPR double flex format, starting Brown, BTJ, Gibbs, K9, Rashad, Slayton, have Pacheco, DeMercado, Carter on the bench. Dowdle available on the waivers. Drop Pacheco. Yeah, look, here's my thought process on this. So considering you have Brown, BTJ, Gibbs, K9, Rashad, if you're looking for a potential flex to play this week, I think easily, without a doubt in my mind, I'm immediately picking up Rico Dowdle and playing him over Slayton in this circumstance. So if you have Chase Brown, this is Chase Brown. I mean, I don't know what other, and maybe AJ Brown potentially. So it's definitely not Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's for sure, right? So probably it's AJ Brown, BTJ, Gibbs, K9, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle. That's the way that I'd go about it. As to dropping Pacheco for it, I'd honestly probably rather drop DeMercado. But if you were okay with dropping Pacheco, I am as well. Thank you. Caden sends in a question. Says in a PPR, pick one: Judy, Hunter Henry, Slayton, Charbonnet. Not too interested in Charbonnet, primarily because of the full PPR format. Again, very much so not within his score lines typically in terms of a high receiving workload for him. They typically do prefer Kenneth Walker as the receiving back. Now, as for the alternative options here, Hunter Henry very much so dependent on falling into the end zone outright. But obviously, he has done it on a very consistent basis as of late, which kind of gives me a bit confidence in regards to the potential of him being able to reaccomplish something of this nature. Let me see where I have them ranked next to each other. What is it? Slayton, Judy. I mean, Judy, Judy's kind of a sketchy situation already, primarily because I don't know what Dylan Gabriel is going to outright look like. He could just end up, being a disaster. As of right now, where the heck is Slayton, though? Hunter Henry's there. Yeah, look, the way that I currently have it constructed and the way that I'll suggest it is I'll play Hunter Henry over the rest of them. That's the way I'd go about it. It'd go Hunter Henry 1. It would probably end up being Jerry Judy 2, Darius Slayton 3, Zach Charbonnet 4. That's the direction I'd go in, Caden. Thank you. All right, we had a question from Alex, who says, PPR, start 3, Mason, Walker, Dowdle, Achane. Okay, so between those available options, in my mind, Achane has to obviously start regardless. Carolina Panthers matchup, run stop defense is horrible. They're giving over 5 yards per carry on average. That's an automatic. Now, as for the alternatives, I genuinely am thinking I might sit Kenneth Walker in this circumstance based on just that Tampa Bay run stop defense. Let me see where I currently have it constructed. And then you have Mason. Yeah, genuinely in a non-PPR scoring format, I will probably roll it in the direction of which, I mean, I don't love this because obviously I kind of want to play. Yeah, I want to play Kenneth Walker, but you do have better alternative options, just objectively speaking. So I would play Achane, I would play Dowdle, and I would play Mason. Those are the three that I would suggest, and that's what I would roll with if it was my team. As for your follow-up question, 6 point per passing touchdown, JD5 or Daniel Jones? That's a really good question. Look, the thing is, Daniel Jones has only ever thrown one passing touchdown each of the last 4 games this season. JD5 with less mobility maybe has to air it out even more. I'd probably just play JD5 there. And then as for Hunter Henry or Ferguson, in a non-PPR, I could justify the idea of playing Hunter because, again, the touchdown frequency comparatively, but there's no way I'm ignoring Ferguson. I think he's just a must-start every week blindly at this point. Thank you. Rickless Cage sends in a question, says, I spent 46 of my 53 fab on JMO and dropped the Mercado half PPR, question mark. I think 46 of 53 is incredibly expensive for just Jameson Williams. Because here's the thought. I mean, look, just look at what Jameson Williams has provided fantasy-wise. Okay, sure, he could be a top 36 option on a given weekly basis, but oftentimes he's either a great play or he is a disaster of a play. And I don't know if the volatility that he provides is worth that much, of your remaining fab to where it's only week 5, unless you're playing in a league in which there are just, quite frankly, 14 to 16 teams and there's nobody available on the waiver wire, and this is the only way in which you'd be able to get a player of this caliber, and you're desperate for wide receiver. Like, at that point, I could understand it. But like, thus far this season, half PPR, he's put up 4.6, 17.8, 5.3, 4.7. Like, he is a lesser value piece than Rashid Shaheed at this point. So as of this moment, am I spending that much of my fab? Probably not. I'd be okay going 25. I'm not ripping. I don't want to rip more than 50% of what you have remaining in this regard. Thank you. Unless, of course, like I mentioned before, it's a 14-16 team league, and that's like one of the best players that could potentially ever be available rest of the way, Thank you. G Santos says, drop Waller for Pitts. I also have Fannin. I mean, I would drop Fannin for Pitts, to be honest. I'd want to keep Waller as we continue because we know how heavily utilized the tight end position is within that Miami Dolphins offense. I think that in itself just kind of makes it very much so a value point to where we would like to keep Waller, see what he continues to develop within that offense. If he can stay healthy, he'll be great. So Waller and Pitts would be the preferred, and Fannin would get the drop. Big Al 9 sends in a question, says Dak or Herbert. I'd prefer to play Herbert this week against that Washington defense, one of the better matchups of the week, on top of the fact that he also has, I would assume, just a healthier core around him in comparison. Says with Pickens as well. Geez. Okay, if you want to stack Dak and Pickens, I can justify it, because if that's what you'd like to do and you want to go ahead and just watch the Dallas Cowboy game this upcoming Sunday and enjoy the game, go for it. Otherwise, personally, the way I'm going to have it ranked by tomorrow on screen will be Herbert ahead of Dak. Thank you. Alejo sends in a question. Thank you very much, my man. Says, in a full PPR, I need to flex. Out of the following options of Ashton Genty, Woody Marks, BTJ, and Ladd McConkey, yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I'm playing Ashton Genty. He's coming off a massive week. I have to start him. Again, we're hoping that breakout is much of the same of what he is going forward with. Obviously, he got back to his regular backfield stance to where he is standing straight up, and hopefully he'll continue to be able to dominate within that overall capacity. I understand that Colton Miller, like you mentioned, is out on the IR. That's their starting left tackle. But ultimately, I think you kind of just have to play Genty. BTJ and Ladd McConkey haven't done enough in my mind to be justifiable enough options to where I'm blindly starting them over the alternatives of either Woody or Genty. And between the two of those, I feel like with Woody still having Nick Chubb in the backfield rotating with him, Genty's just the outright play. Juan Sardina sends in a question. Thank you, Juan. Says, in a full PPR, double wide receiver, double flex format, we have Godwin, Waddle, Flowers, and Jameson Williams. We have Demercado, Higgins, and Kirk. Okay. Sounds good. Says also, okay, so first and foremost, the first 4 names you mentioned are for sure the answers. That's without a doubt in my mind. That's the way we're going about it. T. Higgins with Jake Browning just hasn't been great this season, unless he scores a 40-yard receiving touchdown or something near the goal line, assuming they could even get down into the red zone. That's the only way in which he would be able to outvalue any of these other alternative options. Demercado is difficult to play because, again, even though they are taking on the Titans, the workload of share of opportunity is still in question in comparison to playing Godwin, who's coming off of 10 targets, Waddle, who will be taking over the Tyreek role, Flowers, who saw himself a pretty good target share opportunity with Cooper Rush last week. I mean, if we go back and just look at, obviously it was garbage time. I will, admit to that for sure. But when we just look at the overall usage between the two of them, as soon as Cooper Rush came into the game, like on that second drive in which Cooper Rush took over, Zay Flowers was the first target. Zay Flowers was the third target. Zay Flowers was the fourth target. Zay Flowers was the sixth target. Zay Flowers was the last target. He was targeted 5 effing times in one singular drive. So just putting it out there, I think Zay Flowers is going to be a pretty good play this week, just purely off of kind of the comfortability of Cooper Rush looking in his direction. Just like how Cooper Rush did last season with CeeDee Lamb, he just goes straight to the comfort pick. He ignored Jake Ferguson, which scares me about Mark Andrews this week, and he went straight to CeeDee Lamb every single down out. So keep that in mind. But those are the 4 that we're for sure playing. Now, as for your follow-up question, one flex between Shakir, Kirk, Malik Washington, and Charbonnet. If it's a full PPR, I think Shakir is the justifiable play in this circumstance. Juan, thank you. All right. Riff sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR pick two between Higgins, Ridley, Brashard, and Horton. Is Brashard Smith for like Kansas City? I don't know if he'll be able to get enough workload to be a justifiable play here. Also, Ridley's been questionable. He's technically been on the injury report for multiple weeks now, which is obviously worrisome in regards to the potential which he can provide on a weekly basis. In terms of his practice report as it proceeds, did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday, limited practice Friday, questionable for Sunday. The fact that he's not doubtful leads me to believe that he will play. This being said, do I love the idea of playing him against Will Johnson? No. Will Johnson's also dealing with a bit of an injury. I think it's probably Higgins and Ridley. If you're really feeling spicy about it, you bench Ridley and you play Horton. Thank you. Baba Booey sends in a question. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. All right, let me go ahead. Let me just adjust this. Again, for those of you who are joining us on this wonderful Saturday morning, welcome. This is definitely an earlier live stream than we typically do on a Saturday morning, but I just wanted to go ahead, early live stream. Then I can take care of all the rankings going into this upcoming Sunday, because tomorrow morning I will be live streaming for a consecutive 4 hours once again this upcoming Sunday, because again, there's the Cleveland Browns taking on the Minnesota Vikings on the other side of the pond, on the other side of the Atlantic, in which they will have a very interesting matchup, hopefully a high-scoring one for our fantasy football sakes. But in regards to the potential of the live stream tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. PST, 4 hours, we'll have up-to-date rankings on screen, all that kind of jazz. Thank you very much. Okay. Baba Booey says, A.J. Brown, Zay Flowers, or ETN. Honestly, as of this group, I probably feel best just playing ETN number 1, Zay Flowers 2, and A.J. Brown 3 in a full PPR. Thank you. Super Dave sends in a question. Says 12-team PPR. I need 2 wide receivers, 2 flex between Downs, Tolbert, Bond, Bill, Sean Tucker, Kendre Miller, Fannin, and Brashard Smith. Okay. Of the available options here, in a double flex, double wide receiver format, genuinely, I think Tolbert has to play. Downs has to play. Sean Tucker, no, I'm not interested in. Isaiah Bond, not so interested in. Bill, not. I think I end up probably going Fannin as number 3. And then it's basically just like a toss-up between Bill and Kendre, to which in a full PPR, because of the matchup, I probably just play Kendre Miller. That's probably the way I go about it. I'd like to play Brashard Smith. I'd like to be confident in that, but I think Brashard Smith is probably like a week 7 breakout rather than someone that is going to accomplish that in week 5, but you never know. Who knows? It could happen on any given day, any given Sunday. But those are the 4. Downs, Tolbert, Kendre, and Fannin. Thank you. Watch Hangout sends in a question. Says, I have Brock Bowers and Juwan Johnson. Do I drop Juwan for Fannin or Theo? You could. Again, there is the looming threat of both Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau returning to the lineup, but I will mention Juwan Johnson over the years has been the starter over Foster Moreau. So I'm not worried about his overall workload diminishing too much. I also saw an interview the other day in which the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, Kellen Moore, was asked, what position do you believe Taysom Hill is? And he just outright said quarterback. So under the assumption that he is going to be playing as that rushing threat, he's going to be the quarterback, that in itself kind of gives me the understanding that it may not be digging into Juwan's work too much. So I'd probably just keep Juwan Johnson and Brock Bowers, and I just keep it rolling for now. Thank you. Old sends it a question. Says in a full PPR, start 3, Pittman, White, Judkins, Marks, and Walker. Really good question. As of right now in a full PPR scoring format, these are the 3 that I would prefer. I'll take Pittman with no Alec Pierce. Additionally, a pretty solid matchup against the Raiders secondary. I know that he was questionable earlier this week. Should be ready to go at a full capacity. Rachaad White, again, taking over that backfield opportunity here. Very valuable. And then Judkins, again, has been on a hot streak. Will continue it, considering the Minnesota Vikings cannot stop the run. Again, as you guys probably saw earlier this week, potentially, if you did not, again, it is still available on the channel. I did post my top 36 running back rankings. Judkins was the thumbnail of that episode, primarily because, again, thus far this season, teams who really effectively run the ball have just imposed their will on the ground. Specifically, Atlanta ran for over 200 yards in a touchdown on them. And then additionally, Pittsburgh this most recent week came out with 6 offensive linemen and just ran the ball down their throat for over 120 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So expect for Judkins and this offense with Dalen Gabriel there to try to protect the quarterback by running the ball heavily. Thank you. All right, Keelan sends in a question. Keelan, thank you very much. Keelan says, Woody, Chase Brown, or Rico in my flex? I would play Rico Dowdle blindly without a doubt in my mind. I am incredibly confident in the matchup against Miami and in the workload of what Dave Canales gives his primary RBs. Chase Brown has been very disappointing. That offense is still very much in question. Woody Marks, again, still going to be put to the test against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. I don't think it's an easy run through for him. I think Rico is the automatic pickup and play for the flex this week. As for your follow-up question, Fannin or Mason Taylor or Dalton Schultz at tight end, I have them all incredibly closely ranked. As it currently stands, I would have Mason Taylor 1, Fannin 2, and Dalton Schultz 3. I feel most confident playing Mason Taylor there, primarily because Fannin still has to compete with David Njoku. You have a new quarterback, which kind of leaves in question as to how much workload he could potentially see. His opportunity share could increase. He can go to 10 targets. Who knows? He can go down to 2 targets. It's just up in the air as to what kind of workload we'll anticipate to potentially see there. And as for Dalton Schultz, never feeling comfortable with him because his touchdown upside is never really within any sort of question. It's just a guarantee that he's not going to score. And that in itself kind of takes him out of the running in this circumstance. Flotation says, check X for starter sit questions. Thoughts on the matchup? Okay, let me just go ahead. I don't have my phone on me, so I can't really check it there, but I can go ahead and I can do it on my desktop here. Let me just go ahead and mute my desktop just in case. Okay. If we're looking at the team from earlier this week that you sent over, right? That's not what I want to do. Yeah, let's just leave it there. Okay, so looking at the team, Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Woody Marks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Tolbert obviously gets an upgrade with Cavante Turpin out. You have Calvin Ridley, Hunter Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Jackson Dart, and the Texans defense. I would leave the quarterbacks as such. I would consider... No, I would not play Kendrick over Ramondre. I think Ramondre is a perfectly fine start there. I'm not changing I'm not changing that. Yeah, you're fine. As of right now, in terms of the lineup that you have currently constructed, assuming there were any additional kind of trades or anything like that made, let me just make sure that, there's nothing you mentioned in terms of context. You're leaving it as such. Now, as for the matchup on hand this week, taking on James Cook, ETN, Stephon Diggs, Ted McMillan, Tyler Warren, Jordan Mason, Sam Darnold, I don't have much hope in the matchup. I think ultimately it's going to be a matter of purely just one singular factor. If the Detroit Lions put up as many points as I expect them to do against the Cincinnati Bengals, in which Jahmyr Gibbs and both him and Amon-Ra for your team can score at least 2 touchdowns each, then at that point you're fine. Otherwise, I do believe that the other team has a clear advantage across the board based on like the consistency of play from all those options. And the fact that you have Ramondre and Ridley while he has McMillan and Mason. Those are the X factors. If they perform well, they perform well. And of course, they can carry you this week. Fingers crossed that your other guys are able to at least kind of overcompensate for their deficiencies. Ocho sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says in a half PPR, I need one running back between Walker, Mason, and Charbonnet. Okay. Look, between the 3 of these, let's see where I have Walker in comparison to Mason. Let me go to my half PPR. Walker is there. Okay, so it's going to be close, but so here's the issue, right? Because there's the looming threat always of Zach Charbonnet, I think Mason's just the easier play in this circumstance. Like, I would hate to play Walker and then Charbonnet scores 2 tutties on my bench. Like when you have Walker and Charbonnet, you almost have to play them both. It's like having David Montgomery and Gibbs. You kind of have to play them both. Otherwise, you're kind of burning yourself, spiritually, physically, and, your fantasy team-wise. So for right now, I just lean towards Mason. I just leave both of the Seattle running backs on the bench. As for the one flex in another league, Chase Brown, Henderson, Charbonnet, or Hunter Henry, if it's also a half PPR scoring format, I probably end up leaning towards, let's see, where do I have Hendo in comparison to someone like Hunter Henry? I probably would have, let's see, Hunter Henry. I have Travion Henderson, couple spots ahead of him. Not too significant, though. And then as for the other running backs of this group, yeah. if I was you, I'd probably just play Chase Brown there. It's either Chase Brown or hope that Charbonnet falls into the end zone. Because here's my thought process. Like, Henderson's a good player, but again, he doesn't get the full workload of opportunity. They're going to be in a negative script, but they have shown that they like to utilize all three running backs within the receiving category, whether it is Gibson, Henderson, or Ramondre Stevenson. So for now, the running back that has no competition, that could get himself a bunch more kind of receiving workload, maybe gives us a surprise touchdown. I think Chase Brown's probably the play there. G. Medina sends in a question, says, hello, in a half PPR, 2 running backs, we have Javonte, Judkins, Dowdle, and DeMarcado. Okay. Of the available, Javonte and Judkins are must starts. Thank you. As for your tight end position, full PPR, Fannin, Mason from the Jets, Theo Johnson, or Ingram. I'll take Theo Johnson. Sorry, excuse me. I'll take Jordan. I was going to say Jordan Mason. I'll take Mason Taylor from the Jets. G-mini Christmas, my brain. Yeah, give me Mason Taylor there. Thank you. John sends in a question. John, thank you very much. Says in a full PPR double flex format, pick 2 between Rachaad White, Travis Hunter, Mason Taylor. Yeah, I think that's really easy. I think I play Rachaad White, of course, without a doubt in my mind. And between Hunter and Mason Taylor, I'll just take Mason Taylor. Travis Hunter's overall opportunity share is just not enough because he's playing both sides of the ball. Was he to exclusively play offense? I think at that point, when they were able to kind of potentially move him around, expose him to a little bit more opportunity share, because of the more routes that he'd be theoretically running, he'd be a better play. But for right now, until further notice, Rachaad White, Mason Taylor. Basically playing 2 tight ends this week because, of course, you have Waller. Thank you, John. Kyle D says, Rowdy. I almost said Rashad with a Dowdle, so I went Rowdle. And then I tried to recover. Dowdle or Rachaad White in a half PPR? Let me see where I currently have it structured. As of right now, I have Rico Dowdle ranked higher. That's the way I go about it. Rico Dowdle will be the preferred. Now, this is primarily because in a half PPR, when I look at both of these, I expect Rachaad White to get himself a lot of receiving workload, but I also expect for his rushing upside to be a little bit less implicated in comparison to Dowdle because of the matchup against Seattle, in comparison to Dowdle against Miami's run-stop defense that has been very much so soft thus far this season. Everyone has ran on them. Dowdle will continue that streak. Chan sends in a question, says, Buka for Rice and Dobbins is a good trade. In the event in which you can wait to Rice to return until week 7, and that's not going to kill your season because you catch a couple L's in the next coming weeks here, yeah, I think it's an incredible trade. I will take Rice and Dobbins rest of the way. That is a perfect trade in which you can get value for week 7 and beyond in the form of a receiver that is going to put up potentially in a full PPR. I would venture to say anywhere upwards of 15 fantasy points per week minimum, with the potential of sprinkles of that 20-plus point range on a consistent basis, considering how much utilization he got within the red zone. If you guys remember a couple years ago, let me just go ahead and pull the stat just so that I'm not really talking out of my ass here. So in 2023, if I'm not mistaken, if I look at Rashee Rice's overall workload within the red zone, let's see here. Receiving, if we go here, yeah, and we go here. So in 2023, his rookie season, he was the number 1 red zone target of the offense. I mean, he had a not a significantly greater volume because Kelsey that year also did have himself a pretty good touchdown share, but he had far more targets in the red zone than he should have ever been exposed to. But that's the kind of opportunity that he could be exposed to this upcoming season, as we would anticipate potentially, because even last year, in the couple games he played, quickly finding the end zone early on. So as of right now, yeah, if you can make that move, it's not going to hurt you. And Dobbins can, obviously help out your running back depth. I think it's a fantastic move to make, Chan. Thank you. Gucci sends it a question. Says PPR down CD, Evans, and Ricky. My goodness, man. That sucks. That really does. Start Alick or pick up Slay. I'd pick up Slay and play him. Thank you. Eddie J sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, in a PPR, Juwan Jennings, Mason Taylor, or Strange? Juwan Johnson, excuse me. Juwan Jennings is already out this week. I don't know why I'm thinking that. I'll tell you why I'm thinking that. Because Juwan Johnson is spelled with a W. It's like Juwan instead of that. Anyway, as for these available options, Mason Taylor is my preferred. So should I start the Vikings? Other options are Cleveland, Kansas City, Seattle. Seattle's probably the next best play in this circumstance. As of right now, within my defensive rankings, I have it as Arizona, Seattle, Minnesota as the top 3 in that order. Arizona, Seattle, Minnesota. So if you wanted to keep the Vikings because you want to use them for future weeks, I think that's also a very, very viable approach. Let me see here real quick. I want to look at the Vikings' upcoming schedule just so I can have like a reference point as to maybe. Oh, Vikings go on bye next week though. That's the thing. So, maybe it is smarter to just pick up Seattle. Let me see what Seattle's schedule looks like. Yeah, I'm okay just picking up Seattle and playing them. Coming off of 3 weeks of 3 weeks of 10 plus fantasy points. I'm okay going in that direction. Let's go pick up Seattle and let's play them. I have them ranked higher anyway, so they'll also help so you don't have to pick up a defense next week. Thank you. It's Magic sends in a question. Says, what do we think of this trade? Pearsall and Henderson for Judkins. I get Judkins. Yeah, beautiful. Fantastic. Love it. Says, also, do I start Godwin or Kenneth Walker in my flex? That's an interesting question. I think it depends on multiple factors. Number one, scoring format. If it's a half PPR, I probably just play Kenneth Walker there pretty comfortably. In the event in which it is a full PPR, at that point, I could justify in my mind the potential which we could, kind of lean in the direction of a Godwin. Let me see where I have Godwin currently structured out. I think they're going to be incredibly close, actually. Godwin. Yeah, they're going to be really close. I probably, if it's me, I probably play Kenneth Walker. I don't mind the idea of playing. Yeah, if it's a half PPR standard, actually no, all three. I'll just play Kenneth Walker there. In a full PPR, it gets incredibly close, but I would probably still play Kenneth Walker there. But yes, I do like this trade a lot. I like getting Judkins in this circumstance. I like Kenneth Walker this week a lot in comparison to a Godwin. And as for tight end, do I start Johnson, Waller, or Andrews? I will take Waller this week. Thank you. OJ Running sends out a question. OJ, thank you very much, sir. This isn't a PPR. Omarion Hampton, Chase Brown, Jordan Mason, RJ Harvey, start 2. Yeah, Hampton and probably just going Mason there pretty comfortably. Thank you. Next question, pick 2 between McMillan, Egbuka, Slayton, Addison, Godwin. Between that bunch, I'll take McMillan and Egbuka. And then it says pick 2 to flex. I will flex Godwin and Addison. Yeah, pretty comfortably. Thank you. Luke C sends in a question. It says PPR running backs are Jacobs, Charbonnet, Connor on the IR, Spears on the IR, Carter, C-Rod. Drop all 75 fab on Dowdle. No. Okay, so here's the thought process. Rico Dowdle is not somebody that you're going to play for multiple weeks. Unless there's an injury report that completely missed me, and I did not see it regarding Chuba Hubbard being out for a significantly longer amount of time. As of right now, looking at the report from Roto Baller yesterday, says Chuba Hubbard labeled as quote-unquote day-to-day. The Carolina Panthers head coach Dave Canales has labeled the running back Chuba Hubbard and his calf, who is officially ruled out in Week 5 against the Miami Dolphins, as day-to-day for next week. According to Joe Person of The Athletic, Canales said that the team will take a look at Hubbard again next week, so far as his availability goes for Week 6 against the Dallas Cowboys, which at that point, it's a little bit of a nice revenge game for Rico Dowdle. But as of right now, I don't think that Rico Dowdle is somebody that I'm dropping 75 fab for, because ultimately, if Chuba Hubbard is not going to the IR, if he's not going to be season ending, this is not worth even remotely close to, it's worth maybe 7 fab. It's not worth 75 fab, because he can at most play 3 games. At most. I would say 2 is pushing it. I think 1 is probably where it's going to end up being. So yeah, for now, no thank you on that 75. Thoughts on, and even with your running backs, I understand, like if you're sitting in a position to where, let's say you're like 1-3, 0-4, and you're like, Andrew, I'm in trouble. Like, I have Charbonnet and Carter this week. I'm okay with that. But if obviously you're like trying to desperately get a win here, for Dowdle at that point, okay, we can spend 15. And I think still that's expensive, because it is a 1-week potential play. But if it can help you win the week, it's be worth it in terms of the grand scheme of the percentage of fab utilized in comparison to what a win is worth on a weekly basis in terms of a 14 weeks, playoff or regular season to the playoffs. Thoughts on Juwan Johnson, Ladd, JMO, Diggs, rest of the season? Diggs I like a lot, because I think he's going to be kind of more and more open to getting more opportunity and workload. So that I'm very happy about. JMO, again, he is pretty much just a deep threat, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we're cooked. Ladd McConkey will get better in due time, but clear and away, it is evident Quentin Johnston's the guy. It's done. Like there's no way that they're going back to anything else than Quentin Johnston's the guy, because he's played far too well for them to turn away from him as being the number one. So Ladd, if anything, he can get to the number 2 range, to where if Keenan Allen misses some time, finds himself getting injured, or maybe there are some weeks here in which Ladd is highlighted more in terms of opportunity share. But ultimately, he's not going back to being the number 1 in this offense. I don't see it being the case. And Juwan Johnson, his role is in danger, because if Taysom Hill starts running routes, we'd have a problem. But I think we're a couple weeks away from even the return of Taysom Hill, considering he's coming off of the ACL. So we'll see. All right, Angel Martinez says, start 2, White, Dowdle, Woody, Io Manor over Slayton. No, I'll take Slayton over Io Manor. Now, as for these potential options, I'll play White and Dowdle this week. Thank you. Let's see here. Brayo has sent in a question. Thank you very much. Brayo says, Walker or for Kamara. Yeah, I would. Genuinely. This is my thought process on the matter. I know that Walker, in terms of his rushing upside, is certainly more impressive in comparison to what Kamara has put forth. But in terms of opportunity share, in terms of just ultimately Kamara getting more exposure to the receiving game, I'm okay just going in this direction. Now, in terms of rest of season value, if Kamara gets traded, it could end up swapping as to what we can anticipate to see, depending on where he ends up. But for now, I don't mind it. Especially if it's a full PPR, I'm okay with that. And just, if you don't have Charbonnet, it also kind of gets you out of that pickle. JP says, PPR pick 1, Downs, Tolbert, Io Manor, Shaheed, thanks. Out of this group, genuinely, I have Shaheed ranked the highest. Shaheed would be 1, Tolbert would be 2, Io Manor would be 3, and Downs would be 4. Thank you. David Garcia says, can you pick a touchdown, pick 'em slip for the 3 o'clock games? So when you say 3 o'clock, do you mean, okay, you must be Central Time, I'm assuming, right? Because let me go look. NFL week 4. Sorry, not week 4, week 5. So I'm assuming you mean the afternoon slate, which would be theoretically Tennessee versus the Cardinals, Tampa Bay versus Seattle, Lions and Bengals, Chargers and Commanders, Bills. Okay, yeah. So Chargers, Commanders. Okay, so that 4-game slate. Touchdown slip. Yeah, I mean, look, as of right now, I can probably do it this way. So I would need to do a couple adjusting in terms of graphics. How do I want to do this? I don't think I even have it set up. This is what I'll tell you. So first and foremost, if I was going to put together anything, it would first and foremost be David Montgomery anytime touchdown for sure within that afternoon window. That's something that I mentioned yesterday in regards to fantastic play. Bills technically play tomorrow night as well. So I want an anytime touchdown from James Cook. Specifically as to why, I can give you the justification. 12 of the last 17 for David Montgomery, anytime touchdown. 18 of the last 22 for James Cook, anytime touchdown. Also, James Cook is on an 8-game regular season streak of an anytime touchdown. So that's very much so promising. As for the alternatives of some of these other games in terms of touchdowns, I don't like really many of them. So I'm thinking to myself, I think that's where I do I even throw JSN in there? No. Just give me David Montgomery. Give me James Cook. That's it for now. If I have to stretch it more, I will later. Thank you. Okay, Anvesh sends in a question. Anvesh, what's up, my man? Says, hey, Andrew, in a PPR, Sutton, Keenan Allen, Addison, Henry, Marks, and Dowdle, pick one player to bench. Okay. I'm assuming Henry is maybe Derrick Henry, maybe not even Hunter. So in the event in which it is Derrick Henry, it's 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex. Okay. So of the available options that we have here, Sutton and Keenan Allen are the 1-2 combo. Derrick Henry and Rico Dowdle are the 1-2 combo at running back. And in between Addison and Marks, I'd rather just play Marks there. So Addison would be the sit. Thank you, Anvesh. Appreciate it, my man. Cisco Billy sends in a question, says, what's up, my guy? I need your opinion. I traded away JSN Scat, Pollard/Spears for Saquon and Io Manor. Full PPR, am I crazy? Yeah, that was a mistake. I'm going to be genuine with you. I'm going to be real. You've been here for a while. So I think you can understand where I'm coming from here. It hurts to say, but I think it was a mistake. Saquon Barkley's a little bit of a shell of himself. In between the tackles this season, he's averaging less than 2 yards per carry. The offensive line's a little bit of a mess in terms of the injuries. And additionally, they've lost a little bit of personnel there. Additionally, Saquon in the offense is just, they've soured because they ultimately are a shell of what they have produced last season. I think JSN is going to finish as a top 3 wide receiver, assuming he stays healthy. I think Scatterbo could very easily finish as a top 12 running back in the season. So moving on from both of those pieces in order to bring in Saquon, I think it was a little bit premature of a move. I would have probably kept and happily just rolled with what you had in that circumstance. Thank you, Cisco. Paul Adams says, hey, Andrew, I sent you a trade on Discord yesterday, although now I'm having doubts. Can you explain more why I should continue this trade? Okay, let me just go ahead. Oh, man, I don't have my phone. Jeez. Okay, so here's the issue. Can you do me a favor, Paul, and just type it into the live chat? Because if I was to try to open up Discord on this comp right now, I think everything would crash. So I don't even want to risk that. So if you can just type it in the live chat as to the context of the thing, because I don't have my phone to even look at Discord. So do me a favor and type it in the live chat, and I'll go ahead and I'll be able to just look at it there. Thank you. Samaj sends in a question, says, PPR, I have Strange, Fannin, and Njoku. Okay. Should I drop one to pick up Mason Taylor off of the waivers? I would, yes. Says, who do you start out of the 4 and moving forward? I think moving forward can be determined by this week and kind of the consistency of play between the bunch. I think, again, having 2 tight ends from one singular team is probably the least, I guess, appealing thought of this entire situation. So you could give it a week to see if Njoku or Fannin are the preferred of Dylan Gabriel. And in that situation, kind of explore in that direction. Here's my suggestion for right now, Samaj. In the event in which you play in a league in which, like, let's say, for example, after Tuesday waiver wire runs, like Tuesday, Wednesday, if you can freely pick up players on a weekly basis and that there isn't like another section of a waiver period running on a Sunday morning or something like that, and like prior to tomorrow's game, let's say, for example, we're watching the Sunday morning game between Cleveland and Minnesota, and let's say we plan on playing Mason Taylor. Actually, no, you can't. Okay, so here's the issue. Okay, so here's my thought process. If you can play in a league, or you do play in a league currently, in which you can drop and pick up players as frequently as you want to up until game time, you would drop Strange, you would pick up Mason Taylor, you would start Mason Taylor, you would let Fannin and Njoku play. Whichever other 2 plays at a worse capacity on Sunday morning against the Vikings prior to the remainder of the Sunday games, you drop one of those 2 options back for Strange, pick them back up. That's the way that I would go about it. I'm looking for Mason Taylor to be my option rest of the season, unless somebody else is going to go ahead and take the job from him. Samaj, thank you. Kay says, Titans are with the best chance for a long-term sleeper value, best breakout potential, Strange, Mason, Fannin, likely Taysom. My Titans are still shaky. Look, Taysom's overall usage to be determined. Every single, I guess, coordinator that has been in the New Orleans system as of late has always utilized him as a runner and a receiver. So if they're going to utilize him in the same capacity, then technically speaking, he could probably be the most valuable of the bunch if given a viable opportunity share. So technically, Taysom has done enough in his career, in my mind, to make me think, yeah, anytime Taysom Hill is healthy, he is always considered for top 16 tight end ranking. So between the bunch, he has like the biggest breakout potential. Outside of him, I think it's probably, I'm still going with my Mason Taylor. Then it's probably Fannin, under the assumption that we may see Dylan Gabriel elevate him. Otherwise, then we go to Strange, then we go to likely afterward. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Orleo says in a question, says, I was offered a trade. Jacobs, Javonte, Laporta, AJB for Bijan, Kittle, Metcalf. Also have Bucky/White, Henderson, Mason, and with Walker. Okay. With Waller, excuse me. 10-team half PPR. Okay, so you were offered that trade. Someone wants to give you Jacobs, Javonte, Laporta, and AJB for Bijan, Kittle, and Metcalf. Or is it the other way around? Is someone taking this from you? Either way, if I'm just looking at this in a vacuum, I'd rather have the Jacobs side, genuinely. I'd rather have the potential of what Jacobs provides in terms of top 12, Javonte potentially continuing his top 12 streak, A.J. Brown being top 12 himself in the soon-to-be future, and then Laporta and whatever he brings me, I'll take. That's probably the direction I lean in. in terms of value in comparison to this other group. Now, in the event in which you were being offered, oh, my YouTube just crashed. Let's go ahead and restart that. In the event in which you were being offered the other side of this deal, it could be justified under the assumption that, again, I mean, not even under the assumption, just purely off of what you have on roster, it's justifiable to make a move like this because you do have Bucky, Henderson, Mason, and Waller. But yes, I prefer the Jacob side, all things considered. Thank you. Carlos Z sends in a question, says, what's up, Andrew? Do you have app I could share my team? No, you're going to have to type that out, my man. That's the only way we can do it. Unless you want to send it to me on Twitter or something, that could work. You could just send me a DM, Carlos. That would work in my mind. Thank you. Ray C sends in a question, says, Henderson or Charbonnet PPR? I'll take Henderson there. Thank you, Ray. John War sends in a question, says, PPR, who do I play, T. Higgins or Slayton? I play Slayton there this week. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy says, if I can trade Hampton for McCaffrey, should I? Yes, immediately. Without a doubt, no question. Should have been done last week. I'm worried about the injury history. He doesn't have a bye week until week 14 on top of the injury bug that's been going around in San Francisco. Yeah, listen, you can play it whichever way you want to. I'm not going to obviously tell you have to take it, but in my mind, if that's my team, I'm immediately taking McCaffrey. I think that there's just too much value that he is presenting. I think he's probably going to go for the all-time record for most receptions in in a running back season in terms of most receptions. Probably going to eclipse Eckler's record. Last time Eckler accomplished that, he finished as RB1. I think there's a very possible situation here where when San Francisco gets all their pieces back, sure, his target number is going to go down. But once the threats begin to kind of spread this offense out and kind of force teams to no longer have to fill the box with 8 defenders to stop McCaffrey's rushing efforts, I think it'll just continue to open up the offense and lead to even more touchdowns for him. And then your next question, Johnny, was, should I play Judkins or Dowdle versus Miami? I'll play Judkins this week. Thank you. Ryan LeBlue sends in a question. Says, crazy we made it to this point, but in a PPR, should I drop Trey Tucker for Calvin Ridley? Someone dropped Ridley. Yeah, I would. Absolutely. Trey Tucker is not worth much. So yeah, I'll take Calvin there. Alucard X019 says, in a half PPR, double wide receiver, double running back, one flex format, Chase, Collins, we have Sutton, Tet, Hampton, Scat, Rashad White, Javonte, currently 0-4. Damn, that's a really good team for an 0-4 roster, but I can see how you ended up at 0-4 because Collins did nothing for a while. Scat was only just recently relevant. Hampton did nothing for a while. Jamar Chase has been disappearing. Tedderell McMillan has been disappearing. Your best player is Javonte Williams, who was your lowest, pick probably of the bunch, which is crazy. Of this group, again, you have so many stud players and so many stud options. I'm playing Hampton. I'm playing Javonte. I'm playing Scat. Those 3 for sure, blindly in my lineup. Then I would just follow up by playing Collins and Chase, and that's the way I go about it. Like, I can't risk sitting him. Thank you, Alucard. PC says, PPR rank from best to worst, must sit one. Monty, Woody, Flowers, Godwin. Still benching Woody, ? In a PPR, I'm definitely considering it. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Come on. Woody. Yes. As of right now, I have it Flowers, Godwin, Montgomery, and Marks. So Marks is the odd man out. Now I will say, I legitimately have Godwin, Monty, and Woody back to back in my PPR ranks. So that could, justify that you can go one way or the other. But personally, the way I have it currently projected out, Montgomery plays, Flowers plays, and Godwin plays there. Thank you. Zobu sends in a question. Zobu, let's see what you had here in the live chat. I didn't even put the thing back up, did I? I didn't. Okay. So I'll go ahead and let me answer Zobu's question, then I'll go ahead and I'll put it back up on screen. I appreciate y'all. Zobu says, need one running back, one wide receiver, and one flex in a full PPR. We have Marks, we have DeMercado, we have Rico Dowdle, we have Downs, we have Hunter, we have Kirk, and we have Leggett. Cool. Of those available options, Dowdle plays as RB, Marks plays as flex, and Josh Downs plays as wide receiver. Thank you, Zobu. I appreciate it. Much love. All right, let me go ahead. Let me throw this up onto the screen right here. Okay. How confident are you in Rico? You'll see by tomorrow morning's rankings. I'm gonna have him in my top 16 running backs tomorrow. So yeah, very confident. Very. Okay. Let's see. Let's take care of that. Let's take care of this. All right, catching up slowly but surely. Appreciate your guys' time. Okay, Gravity sends in a question. Says full PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. We have Gibbs, we have Irving, we have Alvin Kamara, Amari Zimmercado, Sean Tucker, Zach Charbonnet, Pickens, McCaffrey, as in Luke McCaffrey, or Wanda Robinson, Lost Cheetah, and Metcalf on bye. Okay, so Pickens and Wanda Robinson are the 1-2 combo there, for sure. Gibbs plays alongside of Alvin Kamara, and your flex pretty much ends up just being, by proxy, Zach Charbonnet. Thank you. Dylan Feeney sends in a question. Says Dowdle or Kamara this week? As of right now, I will probably still lean towards playing Kamara there. Thank you. Unholy Trinity. Why does it smell like something is burning? Anyway, Unholy Trinity says, full PPR, 2 questions. Am I crazy for starting Harvey over Smitty? No, you're not crazy. Start Mason Taylor over Hunter Henry. No, I wouldn't go as far as that. I just play Hunter Henry there, and I would just play Harvey over Smitty. I'm happy with that. Thank you. Caden has follow-up. Says sit 1.5 PPR. Worthy, Scadaboo, Egbuka, and Genti. Yeah, Worthy's the odd man out in this circumstance. Everybody else has to play in my mind. Thank you. Belly sends in a question. Says in a PPR, would you trade away Mahomes and a player like Judkins, London, JSN, or Adunze for Josh Allen? No, I wouldn't. Says the rest of my roster I have is Hampton, Henry, JCM, Woody Marks, Justice Hill, Tyler Warren, Diggs, Jennings, and Kincaid. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I think the firepower that your roster gets with Judkins, London, JSN, Adunze all contributing on a weekly basis on top of this crazy... I mean, okay, here's my question, Belly. How many wide receivers in flex can you start? Is it a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format? If that's the case, then sure, I can justify the idea of moving on from one of these players in order to pick up Josh Allen in this circumstance. But in the event in which you play in a double flex league or you play in a triple wide receiver format, I'm keeping what you have. Yeah, so whenever you get a chance, let me know. Just type it in the live chat and I'll be able to check up your chat log and then we can get that taken care of. Thank you. Let's see here. I was looking for Paul Adam. Let's see if Paul ended up typing it in. Oh, you sent in a message, Paul? Okay, I was just going to wait until... It says trading away Amon, Bond, Mason, and Aaron Jones to get CeeDee Lamb, Golden, Sutton, and Henderson. Yeah, okay, I remember this. It says giving Amon Mason... Yeah. It says I have Amon Ra, BTJ Slayton, Bond, Downs, and had Neighbors, Tyreek before IR. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, Paul. I think it's probably easier for me to just answer it once I get off stream because I'm trying to remember the team's record. I'm trying to remember all the context of the full roster. If you can do me a favor and just wait, I'll probably be finishing the live stream here in about 30 minutes at 11 a.m. PST. At that point, I'll just be able to hop on Discord and open it up and happily answer and just kind of get that all settled with you. I appreciate that, Paul. Thank you. But yeah, for right now, I'm leaning towards probably still taking it, but if you're having doubts about it, again, there's no pressure to have to make a move as of this week. You could wait till next week and kind of reevaluate. Okay, where are we at here? We took care of John War, we took care of Kilroy, we took care of Zolbu, took care of Belly. Let's see if Belly had anything to say. 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Okay, in this circumstance, yes, I'd be willing to make a trade to move Mahomes and one of those players for Josh Allen. Because when you have Henry and Hampton, and then you can have Judkins, and those are your 3 running backs for rest of season, you could theoretically ship off Adunze in this circumstance and make the move. You could ship off Judkins if you want and make this move. Ultimately, you have enough depth to be able to justify it. But those are the 2 that I'd be considering moving. I'm not moving London or JSN. Thank you. Ray C sends in a question. Says, tight ends Goddard, Strange, or Mason Taylor PPR? I just go with Goddard this week. I'm happy with that. Thank you. To the Max sends in a question. Says, sup, Andrew? I'm 3-1 currently in a 12-team full PPR, double wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex format. My team is Fields, Gibbs, Achane, JSN, Sutton, Pearsall, Kincaid. Bench is Spears, Rashad White, Malik Washington, Goddard, Jawan. IR is Rashi. Okay. On the IR, we have Rashi Rice being offered Knicks Ferguson for Sutton Kincaid ideas. I don't see why you need Knicks. Not interested there. I'm okay with keeping what you have. Again, I don't think it's necessary. If they want to give you Ferguson, they can give you Ferguson and something else. I don't think you need Knicks. Fields is the better option. So I'm not really certain as to why you would need Bo Nix in this circumstance. So if I was you, I'm turning around and I am probably asking for, I'm still willing to give Sutton and Kincaid, but just give me Ferguson and another wide receiver. Like, you don't need the backup quarterback. It's not necessary there. Or maybe a running back that they may have on roster. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and scroll back up here, trying to catch up on some of these questions. The people pay MMA sends in a question. Says, who do I start? 2 running backs and a flex. Options are Woody Marks, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, Keenan, and Marv. Okay, really good question. Really good options. Running backs are Marks and Dowdle, and I probably end up playing Marv here at the wide receiver position. Thank you. Sean sends in a question. Thank you very much, Sean. Says, would you rather start Judy or Ira Manor in a full PPR flex format? I would play Judy this week. Thank you. Super Dave sends in a question. Says, drop Sean Tucker from Manungai, Caleb Johnson, or Christian Watson, or even Loveland. In a PPR, I need a wide receiver help after losing Neighbors. I have Puka, Rice, Downs, Tolbert, Bond, Burden, Ferguson, Fannin, Chuba, Marks, Harvey, Bill, Kendra Miller. It's ugly. Yeah, it's not looking pretty. As for what I am going ahead and doing here in this circumstance, I'm 100% willing to drop Sean Tucker because he's only a 1 week kind of pickup and even consideration. Of the available alternative options, I'm either going with Christian Watson or Loveland because I think both of them can provide enough value to where you could end up being in a position to where you may use them as a starting option in the future. Manungai and Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson has to take over 2 running backs, Gainwell and, of course, Jalen Warren. Manungai has a closer gap to accomplishing it, but I still don't think he's capable. So Christian Watson, Loveland, either of those two. Considering you have Ferguson and Fannin, I don't think you need the tight end. I'd probably just go pick up Christian Watson, put him on the IR spot while he's out still. Thank you. Astro says questions in the chat. All right, Astro, thank you, my man. Says half PPR. I'm currently 3-1. I got offered Jamar Chase for my George Pickens, and I'm currently 1-3. Oof. My current roster is Amon-Ra, Egbuka, Ricky Pearsall, Jacoby Myers. What are you thinking? Okay. So here's my thought immediately. In the short term, like in the meanwhile, in the next 2-3 weeks here, I think Pickens, in the absence of CeeDee Lamb, is the more valuable prospect. But in the grand scheme of this season, Jamar Chase is going to eventually get back to being Jamar Chase. Sure, maybe not 100% of Jamar Chase was last season, but maybe 75%. To which, if you go from a 20-point per game player to now a 15-point per game player at only 3/4 of your capacity, I think that is still enough to where I'm justifiably making the decision just purely off of what Jamar Chase can be, potentially become and what we're expecting him to kind of return to. So if it's me, it's just out of principle for the fact that it's Jamar Chase, I make the move. Because eventually CeeDee Lamb will return and so will, George Pickens fantasy points back to reality. Sure, he's still going to be utilized at a high capacity, but I think Jamar Chase is the move in this circumstance, considering you're 3-1 and you can make a trade of this caliber. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question that came in. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. All right, after Astro, we had Jay, who says, trade Fields and Woody for Brees and London. Yeah, immediately. Done. Finished. 1 quarterback league. I'm 1-3. I have Dak Prescott. I got Fields. I got the rest of this team. Yeah, I'm down to make this trade. Absolutely. I prefer Brees Hall over Woody. And London, I think in the grand scheme of it, as we continue forward, I think is very valuable in terms of being able to be a weekly starter for you alongside of, you have as of right now, Pickens, Tet, and BTJ. He can play over all of them theoretically going forward. Now, as for it says also start Dak or Fields. If we're talking about starting one of them this week, and let's say this trade was not to occur this week, which it should, you should try to push this trade through right now. But in the event in which it doesn't, Fields would play over Dak. Thank you. Tony Lopez sends in a question, says, should I trade Pittman for either Chase Brown, Woody Marks, and either of those two for Scat and Golden? No. I mean, ultimately, I don't think it's as valuable. Golden's not really of much value, so you'd be trading Pittman and one of these 2 running backs for just Scat. It's a 2-for-1 deal because Golden doesn't provide much. Also, in another league, I was offered Pollard, T, Aaron Jones for my Jalen Warren Mims. Only start 2 running backs. I'm okay with this trade. I'll take this side. Thank you. Continuing on, Luke C says Lotto drop Chris Rodriguez for Tyrone Tracy, Isaiah Davis, Jaden Blue, or Sean Tucker. Of the available, considering the report was that Braylon Allen's going to be out for the next, 12 weeks, it was a significant injury, Isaiah Davis is the guy. Because in the event in which Breece Hall actually gets traded, if this team starts 0-8, Isaiah Davis could be ending up being the starter after they trade him away to, Kansas City or maybe Washington. So yeah, Isaiah Davis is the answer. Samash says PPR trade questions in the chat. Thank you. Says I have Daniel Jones, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Garrett Wilson, Strange, Montgomery, Debo, Schrader. Bench is Michael Carter, Charbonnet, Fannin, Bo Nix, Njoku, Stafford, Javonte Williams, or no, that's Jameson Williams and Pearsall. Says what would you package together to buff roster? Also have JSN. What would I package together? Brother, you have JSN, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Garrett Wilson, David Montgomery, and Debo. I don't think I need anything else except for a tight end. To which you have Strange and Njoku, which is it's just not viable. So I would do whatever I could to go to a team that has maybe George Kittle and just try to buy George Kittle off their team. Because Kittle's not coming back till week 7. So if they need running back help, send them Michael Carter. If they need quarterback help, send them Matthew Stafford. If they need wide receiver help, send them Jameson Williams and Pearsall. I don't care. Just send the whole ship. If you can find the Kenneth Walker manager and they have a tight end and you want to give them Charbonnet, give them Charbonnet. But for now, I don't think anything is in need of upgrade except purely that tight end position, which is desperately in yeah, you just need to make a move there for sure. Kittle could be an option. You could explore going and buying low on Brock Bowers. I think that's also a possibility as of this moment. Samaj says PPR trade question. Okay, so we took care of that. Thank you. Powerhouse says rest of season Pickens or Marvin Harrison. That's a really good question. In a rest of season capacity, wow, I don't even know if I have an opinion on that yet. I want to hope that the answer is Marvin Harrison. But I don't have the confidence in a... I think I'd rather have I'd rather have George Pickens. If it's my team, I'd rather have George Pickens. Thank you. Cooler Hand says Scatterboo, Judkins, Dowdle. Pick one in a PPR. I'd probably just play Judkins 1, Scat 2, Dowdle 3. Thank you. Carlos Z says in a half PPR 10-team league, I'm 2-2. My team is Knicks, St. Brown, Quentin Johnston, T-Mac, Debo, Pearsall, Dobbs, Genty, K9, Hendo, JCM, Carter, McBride, McLaughlin, Green Bay and Arizona defense. Who are we starting in week 5, my man? For playoffs, who should I offer and seek for? Okay. So, in regards to this week's lineup, quarterback is obviously going to be Bo Nix. You're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver 1. You're starting Quentin Johnston as wide receiver 2. We are looking to play Genty as running back 1, K9 as wide receiver 2, RB2. Debo is your flex. McBride is your tight end. If you had a double flex format and you could play another alternative option here, it probably ends up being Michael Carter. But if that's not the case, then again, it is St. Brown, Johnston, Genty, Walker, Debo, McBride, Nix. As for who we are looking for rest of season in terms of potential, I would love to have the potential of buying low on an A.J. Brown anytime I have the opportunity to do so, and I'll continue to harp on that. I think the opportunity has never been at a better position. I also think that the idea of buying low on Derrick Henry is very much so a viable one, because eventually Lamar Jackson will come back, and when in fact he does, Henry will get back to his normal state, and I promise you on that. So for now, those are two options that if you have the opportunity to go about it and teams in your league are crashing out, there's an opportunity to be made there. Outside of that, you could end up flipping Debo Samuel to a very desperate team that has had themselves shambles situations for wide receiver. Maybe somebody lost Neighbors. Maybe somebody lost Tyreek Hill recently. Maybe someone's not satisfied with how Jamar Chase is playing. Maybe that could be a flip in that circumstance in those directions. Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate it, my man. All right. B. Normie sends it a question. Okay, says... In a full PPR, Bijan, okay, this is your team. Let's see what the question is. 2 wide receivers, 1 flex league. I'm 1-3. Quarterbacks are the following. Okay. So let's see here. Trade Warren, Judkins, Igbuka for Saquon and DK. Interesting trade. Jalen Warren Judkins, Egbuka for Saquon and DK. And then you have Bijan Brees. You have Nico, Tet, Rice, Worthy. Yeah, you can make this trade. That's fine. That is a perfectly fine trade. I don't have an issue with this at all. Thank you. Jay Park sends in a question. Jay, thank you very much. Says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR start two, Jameson Williams, Rico Dowdle, and Woody Marks. I'll take both of the running backs there. I think it's just safe for in a half PPR. Chris Rosado sends in a question. Says, trade Barkley, Tet, Waddle for Amon-Ra, Hall, and Adunze. Yeah, I'll take the Amon-Ra side here, especially if it's a full PPR. That would be ideal. Thank you. Luis says, in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, Drake May or Dak Prescott? That's a really good question. Let me see how I have it projected. All I have to do is add 2 points to both these sides. Just like if I assumed, well, if they're both throwing 2 touchdowns, it's going to be equal under the assumption they both throw for 2 passing touchdowns. In the event in which that does not occur, then it becomes a little bit less. I think in a 6-point per passing touchdown league, I think it's always better. It's not always better, but I think I should probably play Dak Prescott there. Genuinely. Darren Carpenter sends in a question. Says, trade Devontae Smith for Rashee Rice. Yes, immediately. Done. Give me Rashee Rice rest of the season. Thank you. MC says, Andrew, should I start Goff or May this week? I'd prefer to play May. Rushing upside. Mr. Coyote says, in a full PPR, flex Travis Hunter, Bill, or Fannin. Genuinely, I think I end up just playing Fannin there because I don't trust any of the alternatives. Adam sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, pick 2, Judkins, Dowdle, Kenneth Walker, or Keenan Allen. In a full PPR, I will play Judkins and Dowdle there as my starters. Says, I had Puka and Kyron on Thursday looking for a safe floor. I think both these provide that for you this week. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And it says Daniel Jones and Prescott. I'll take Daniel Jones there in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. Gabriel Martin says, Higgins or Slayton, standard scoring. I'll take Slayton there. Thank you. Frank Grillo sends in a question. Says, Jerry Jeudy or Devontae Smith. I'll take Jerry Jeudy there. Also, Kyler Murray or Daniel Jones, second league. Dak Prescott or Daniel Jones. As of right now, I can go back and forth on this. I have Kyler Murray 1 spot ahead of Daniel Jones, so I'll probably lean in that direction. And then I have Daniel Jones a couple spots ahead of Dak Prescott, so I'll do that in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. So Kyler and DJ in those leagues, Frank. Thank you. Okay, I think I've effectively caught up on all these questions that came through. Appreciate y'all sending those 3. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning starting as early as 6 a.m. PST. Again, for those of you who are trying to get my Sunday morning rankings so you don't have to wake up that early over the course of that entire situation to get that all settled, you can always check out Betr. Again, I've mentioned this before over the course of this entire season. For those of you guys who want to go ahead and get my rankings sent from my email directly to yours every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season, you just have to sign up using code Andrew today, make that first time deposit minimum of $10, and make a first time play minimum of $1 within a real cash play, and you'll be eligible to get those rankings every single week. So as of right now, again, that is an availability. Otherwise, you can always check out, of course, Patreon, in which you can go ahead and get my rankings there every single Thursday, Sunday, questions answered, all that kind of jazz. Appreciate it, guys. Okay. All that information down below for those of you who are interested. Xavier, what's up? I'm not leaving just yet. I got about 15 more minutes, and then we're heading out. I do appreciate y'all, but again, I'll be back tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp in the morning with probably 1 hour of sleep and a lot of caffeine in my system. All right, let's continue on here. Let's see. We had Anthony Marr sent in a question. Says, trade Dobbs and JCM for Rashee Rice. Yes, immediately. Give me Rashee Rice there. Thank you. Daisy sends in a question. Says, love your streams. In a standard 2-flex format, Judkins, Mason, Walker, Egbuka, Tet. Okay, first and foremost, thank you very much for the kind words. As for your roster, as for the standard league 2 flexible options, I'm leaning towards playing Judkins and Mason as the 1-2 combo. I'm considering Egbuka as the other play here, but I think it's probably in a standard league always safer to roll with those running backs. So Judkins and Mason are my 2 plays. If I'm feeling spicy about it, I'd probably go Judkins and Egbuka. Says Baker or JD5. As of right now, I'd assume they wouldn't take JD5 and put him into the lineup if he wasn't healthy enough. So I'd be comfortable just rolling JD5 there. Team is stacked with Nico, JSN, Henry. Yeah, you're in a really strong position. So I'll take Judkins and Mason, and I'll just take Baker. Actually, no, I'll just take JD. Excuse me, not Baker. I don't need to play safe in this circumstance. Chase Brown or Rico Dowdle. I'll take Rico Dowdle there. Woody, Rashad White over Chase Brown and Michael Carter. I'll take Rashad White over the bunch. Woody, I probably would as well. Michael Carter. Am I playing Woody over Michael Carter? Let me see where I had them ranked on Thursday, and I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I have Woody still ahead of Michael Carter by 1 spot. So yes, Woody and Rachaad White would be over Chase Brown and Michael Carter. Carlos. Let's see here. Frenzy says in a full PPR, 1 running back, 2 flex. We have Chase Brown, Dobbins, Montgomery, Dowdle, Myers. Yeah, as of right now, David Montgomery and Dowdle are my running back flex, and I probably play Myers alongside of them. So I probably play these 3 as of right now. Full PPR, Shaheed or Coker rest of the season. I think Coker's probably the ideal guy there. Yeah, that's my thought process. Calvin Ridley, Mims, or Travis Hunter. Mims is like, if he doesn't score a touchdown, you're screwed. Travis Hunter is you're screwed. Calvin Ridley is you're screwed. So pick your poison, brother. I don't really love any of those 3 options. I think regardless of what I suggest, we probably end up in a tough situation there. Stash Kansas City running back or Jets running back. Honestly, I'd probably rather stash Kansas City's running back. Maddie says, hi, Andrew. Would you please pick 3 running backs between Henry, Scadaboo, Woody, Hampton, and K9? Okay. I would play Hampton, Scat, and Henry. And then if I was going to have to flex one of them between Woody, K9, and Marv, in a full PPR, I'm probably playing Marvin Harrison Jr. Thank you. Country says, okay, his Country's talking to Ando, no problem. What's up, Big Dog? What's up, Constantino? Says PPR, Sharbs, DeMercado, or Rico? Rico Dowdle, without a doubt. Xavier, what's up, my man? Says, took your advice on the waiver wire. Able to grab Slayton, Keon Coleman, Rachaad White. I have Cook, Omarion Hampton, Montgomery, K9, Slayton, BTJ starting. Okay. I have 2 offers on the table. BTJ Golden for Sutton, Marvin Harrison. And okay, first and foremost, take this Sutton and Marvin Harrison deal. If you're giving BTJ and Golden and someone's giving you Sutton and Marvin Harrison, firm handshakes, kiss them on the forehead, and run. That is an incredible trade. Take that and run to the hills. That's it. You're fleecing them. And then Kenneth Walker for Jacoby. I'd rather keep Kenneth Walker here. So give me Sutton and Marvin and keep Kenneth Walker if you have the opportunity to do so. Thank you. All right. Like the Jeans says, I'm in bind questions in the chat. All right, let's see what you had here. Questions not in the chat like the Jeans. You're going to have to retype it in. Thanks, man. There it is. Says I need 2 running backs and 2 flex. My options are Dobbins, Harvey, Walker, Sharbs, Mason, Hendo. Okay. And then my tight end is Waller. I'm starting is Warren. Okay, understood. Okay. Says I'm worried about Mason and Hendo. Almost rather flex Waller. Look, as of right now, my immediate thought process regarding the running backs are playing Dobbins, Walker, Mason. So those 3 for sure. If you wanted to play Waller alongside of them, I don't have an issue with that. But Dobbins, Walker, and Mason, I think you kind of have to play in this circumstance. Thank you. Appreciate it, my man. Who do I start then? Okay, in the event in which you do make this trade and you get Sutton and Marvin Harrison, okay, and you're playing in a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, Omarion Hampton and probably K9 are your starting running backs, to which then Sutton and Marvin Harrison are your starting wide receivers, and Montgomery's your flex. If you could play another flex, then at that point it's just Slayton. What's up, Albert? Albert says, in a 12-man full PPR league, I need help setting my lineup. We have the following lineup. Okay. So quarterback, Kyler or DJ? I prefer Kyler 1 spot ahead of DJ. Running backs, we have Kenneth Walker, Rachaad White, Woody Marks. Okay, of those available options, I have Kenneth Walker and Rachaad White ranked the highest. Those would be the 2 I start. Pickens, Egbuka, Keenan, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice. I'll play Pickens and Egbuka as my wide receivers. I'll play McBride as my tight end, and I would flex Woody Marks there. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Says down bad at running back. My wide receivers are Jefferson, Sutton, Egbuka, and Rice waiting on the bench. I got offered Woody and Marvin Harrison for Egbuka and Pollard. I mean, ultimately, I don't know if I like that. I think I'd rather just keep Egbuka Pollard for right now. Yeah. Look, my thought process is like Woody still has the looming threat of Mixon at any moment. which scares me. And it's like it's out of sight and out of mind, so that we don't know when it's going to come down the pipe, but it could. And I just prefer Egbuka over Marvin Harrison, so it's hard to make that move. So I'll just keep the Pollard Egbuka side. Ryan Clark says Troy Franklin or Keon Coleman this week. I'd prefer to play Troy Franklin. Keon Coleman against Christian Gonzalez. Not really interested in that matchup. It's okay to laugh. Says Sharbs, Bill Krosky Merritt, or DeMarcado. Let me see where I have them structured right now. I have Zach Charbonnet one spot ahead of DeMarcado, who is one spot ahead of Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. So it would go number 1, Sharbs, number 2, DeMarcado, number 3, JCM. Thank you. Powerhouse says Quentin Johnston, top 10 rest of the season. Can you keep it up? Time will tell. I mean, ultimately, I remember a couple years ago, if you guys remember, when Mike Williams had his breakout season with Justin Herbert. If I'm not mistaken, that was in 2021. There was like a huge streak in the beginning of the season in which Mike Williams was an unstoppable force, to which, like, again, we were just like, okay, well, it looks like it's going to go forever. So I guess, yeah, legitimately, I'm looking at it right now. In 2021, from weeks 1 through 5 of the season, Mike Williams was the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. He put up weeks of 18.2, 18.6, 29.7, 1.6, and 32.5. He was number 1 amongst all wide receivers, ahead of Cooper Kupp at the time. Obviously, he couldn't keep up with Cooper Kupp. By the end of the season, he did still finish as wide receiver 10 overall, based on his contributions from earlier in the season. I think there's a good chance he keeps it up. But is he going to keep it up at this pace? No. He probably will diminish at times because Ladd's going to have to take some steps forward. The offense may regress in some sort of situations because of injuries. But he is still going to be in this top 12 conversation. Does he have to be top, does he have to be where he currently sits? No. Because he's like right now, like top, yeah, I think top 10's fine. Not top 5 though. I think it's a little bit rich. All right. Pierce sends in a question. Says PPR, Shakir, Io Manor, Mason Taylor. I have James Cook. Even with that situation, I think I just have to play Shakir. I think it's just too valuable of a piece to ignore what he's presenting in terms of value. So yeah, I'll take Shakir in this circumstance. Thank you. All right, I'm going to answer a couple more questions here for the next 5 minutes, and then we're going to head out. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning. I appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel, with your viewership, with clicking the like button, with just hanging out. Anything you guys do to support the channel to get us one step closer to 100K subscribers is greatly appreciated. Again, I understand telling a friend to subscribe is definitely difficult, but hey, maybe if you go and you take your buddy's account that doesn't even play fantasy and you subscribe to the channel, that's appreciated. But yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate all of it. Okay, let's see here. Am I playing Daniel Diamonds over? Yeah, I would play Daniel Diamonds over Bo Nix. Star 3, Sutton, Marvin Harrison, Tet, PTJ. Sutton has to play. Marvin Harrison has to play. I think Tet has to play. So those are probably the 3. Play Rico there, Constantino. And then also probably play Sharbs as our number 2. Thomas sends in a question, says, half PPR, Rico Dowdle, Kenneth Walker. Rico Dowdle is my suggestion. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to have rankings at a top 36 capacity for running back for half PPR. They'll be on screen for the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So be sure to swing on by to get that confirmation. But yes, Rico is my suggestion. Says start 2, Rashad White, Chase Brown, Charbonnet, Pollard. I will take Rashad White and Chase Brown unless Tyjae Spears doesn't play this week. If Tyjae Spears is inactive, I would play White with Pollard. Otherwise, I play White with Chase Brown there. Thank you. Pollard or McConkey? It honestly depends on if Tyjae Spears is available. T or Addison? Give me Addison. 3-1. I have JD5, Christian McCaffrey. Any moves to keep the team up? You have CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Sutton, Ladd, Jacob, CMC, JD5. I mean, what's your tight end look like? That's my next question. Can you trade for Kittle? Can you buy low on him? That's an opportunity that you could explore in this circumstance. Sorry. Down bad, I need 2 running backs and a flex. Sharbs, Harvey, DeMarcado, Pacheco, Dowdle. Dowdle has to play. Addison is your flex. And I think I probably end up going in a full... Let me see where I have. Yeah, if I was in your position, I'd probably just play Dowdle at RB, Addison in my flex, and Charbonnet as my other RB. Thank you. Ray Barrera sends in a question. Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. It says, hey, Andrew, in a 12-team full PPR league, I was offered Ferguson and Caleb Williams for McBride. Wow, okay. My quarterbacks are Purdy and Goff for the rest of the season. I like the idea, but I don't like the overall kind of look of it. Like I prefer McBride. I think he's only going to get better to the point to where I'd have a hard time moving on from him. Like I don't know if Caleb is that much more of a significantly better option. Like once you get Purdy back healthy and Purdy is surrounded by Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Pearsall, Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, that's going to be the best team in the league. So Purdy would probably be the answer there. So if you can survive with Goff in the meanwhile, I think that's probably the way to go about it. Your Majesty says, hey, Andrew, in a half PPR, Spears, Hunt, or Tucker? In the event in which Spears is active and available, I probably play him. In the event in which he is not, I'll probably play Trey Tucker there. Thank you. Andrew, love the show. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, my man. Give up BTJ for Lad. I don't mind that, but honestly, I'd probably rather have BTJ, less competition for targets in comparison to the alternative offense. Chase Brown or Spears? I'll take Chase Brown there. Thank you, Jordan. I appreciate that. Tua, Rattler, Bryce, Superflex. I have Rattler ranked the highest. Drop one, Carter or Dowdle? Dowdle is great for this week, but Carter is great for 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, you're right. You know the exact way to go, Dan. You drop Dowdle in this circumstance because in terms of longevity of value, Dowdle does not present that in comparison to what Carter does. PPR, Sutton and AJ Brown for Adunze and Pickens. I probably no. I probably just keep Sutton and AJ Brown. Sorry. Oh, it's Sean Tucker. Yeah, I don't want Sean Tucker. Give me the alternative. Thank you. Barza Gaming says, morning, full PPR, Rashad White, Kamara, or Darius Slayton. Kamara number 1, Rashad White number 2, Darius Slayton 3. Thank you. Do I flex DeMercado for Troy Franklin PPR? No, I would play Troy Franklin in a PPR. Thank you. Daisy said, I sent my second question after. Okay, let me check what you had here, my man. Says, in a half PPR, flex Tedderroll, McMillan, Quentin Johnston, Barkley, Genty, Aerosign, Mason, Ladd, or Travion Henderson. Mason would be the next man up. Thank you, Daisy. Ladd is running the second most routes in the NFL. It'll come around. Yeah, I hope so. I truly do. I really do hope so. You got to remember, though, like, okay, so just putting it into perspective, okay? This will be the final thoughts before I close out today's live stream. I do appreciate y'all coming through again. I'll be back tomorrow morning. If we're talking about routes run being like the foremost leading kind of idea of value, I don't know if I subscribe to the idea outright. I understand the more routes you run, the more opportunities you get in terms of potential for targets. I understand that outright. That makes sense. But like in terms of like most routes ran last season, like Trey Tucker last season ran the 7th most routes in 2024. Like, does that mean that he's going to be of a greater value? Like Elijah Moore ran the 13th most routes last season. Andre Yoshivas ran the 17th most routes last season. Does it mean you're immediately going to find value? No. But it does lead you to more opportunity, which I do agree, regardless of the point. I think the stat in itself can be cherry-picked, but in the same vein, I do expect for Ladd to come around, for sure. I do appreciate y'all. Again, that's where I'm going to call it here tonight. Or today, this morning. I'll be back tomorrow morning as early as 6 a.m. PST. Again, if you guys want to get my rankings, check out Betr. You guys know the whole deal. Sign up using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, and make that first time play minimum of 1, picking more or less on 2 player stats. In yesterday's Hidden Gems episode, I mentioned a couple plays that I'm putting together for this weekend at the end of the episode for those of you who are interested in checking that out. Otherwise, you can check out the Patreon in which you can get rankings and all that kind of jazz available on a subscription basis. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to cue the one and only Double Helix. Have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for some football. See ya. Peace. As soon as I try to leave, people send in more questions. YouTube Zay sends in a question. Okay, sorry. It was Steven Drake's was the final question. Steven, you've been around the channel for a while. Says, hey, Andrew. I need 2.5 PPR. DeMercado, Dowdle, T-Mac, Jordan Mason. Okay. Dowdle plays, Jordan Mason plays. Also, would you play between Bryce or T-Law? Between Bryce and T-Law, wow. That's an interesting one. Give me a moment. Let me think about this. Let me pull up my rankings from Thursday. See how I have it currently structured. Bryce or T-Law? I'll take Bryce Young in there against Miami. Thank you, Steven. All right. See you guys. Peace.